And let's go to this chiddush here that we've developed. I've been thinking about this a lot because I'm having trouble with the language. Let's look on page Reish Samach Bet in the Mavu. To this chiddush that we can understand now about, because I've always had the question about yourself, by why did you need a switch? Why do we need to have to go from what we had originally? So going to the Sefirat, the Tzniuta, if you're going back to that, you see that the nature of Abba is that Abba is Abba, but within Abba himself he has some shtickle of Ima. And the same thing is true of Ima, which you have some shtickle of Abba, because we have, like there's an Ima in the Vav Dal, let's say, for example, of the Yud. So Abba is the Yud, and it's basically Abba, but Abba has within himself some female aspects. And then basically, Ima is the Hey, but on the other hand, she has some male aspects to her also. Now, what's going to happen is that they're going to go into Zair Anpin. When they go into Zair Anpin, then it's going to have to switch because the Zair Anpin is composed of 3 lines. So therefore, everything is going to have to move until the concept of everything was Abadik or Imadik, even though they might have some female or male aspects to them, relatively speaking, they're going to have to switch so that everything's going to have to be the right line, the left line, and the center line. And that's basically what happens is that everything becomes the right side of Abba. All of the mochin that are inside of Abba are going to move to the right. They're going to be the right of the right, and they're also to be the right of the center, because you have 3 lines, and so there's going to be a center line, and we know the mochin are the center. There's 3 lines. There's three different sets of mochin, or a double mochin in the middle. And the same thing is true of Ima, is that Ima is going to have to move everything to the left. So therefore, the basic Ima is going to be on the left line, and also in the left of the center. So that's the reason why they line up like that. Now, the next little bit here is just work on this and trying to understand it, because the first part of it is easy enough for me to understand. So down at the bottom on this page, it says, Seder his pashas achug the dechiyus. Now, he doesn't explain the word dechiyus. I guess he means that everything is constantly pushing along. I'm not sure. He said, B'shar Kavonos, he explains, and I could just really quickly in this paragraph, he says that you always thought there was 5 chesed and 5 kevuros, but actually there's 7. So there's 7 chesedim and 7 gevuros because of the kololim of Yesod and Malchus. Now, I'm thinking that in the back of my mind that I want to understand what's going on in Chabad Chagtam, and he says like this in the second paragraph down below. He says, "Kol achad ma'asheva bechinos." Now you say there's 7 bechinos of chesedim, which is chesed, gevurah, teferes, netzach, hod, Yesod, and Malchus. And the same thing is true of the Gevuros. So every one of them also has 7. So he's talking about the Chesadim themselves. Inside the Chesadim themselves, they get divided up into the Sheva Bechinas Pratias, which is Chagat Nehem. So it's 7 spheros Chagat Nehem. And in the Chesed part of it, it's going to have a Chagat Nehem, and in the Gevurah part, it's going to be a Chagat Nehem, and 7, and so on and so forth like that. Boven Shehem Men Tes Mechinos Chesadim. So now that you see the Chesadim get divided up, and since they're Al Derek Zeh Gam Spheres Chagat Nehem Dezah Nechlechus Kol Achad the Sheves Spheres Pratio. So he says over here. Now I know we went over this a little bit, just trying to get it more concrete. He says there's also 49 spots because the same thing happens in the 7 lower spheres. Zair Anpin is basically a Chagat Nehem. That's what Zair Anpin is. And each one of the Chagat Nehem of Zair Anpin is a Chagat Nehem. That makes another 49. So now you have 49 places inside the spheros that these Chesadim are going to go. You have 49 going into 49. I would think that was a good understanding. And right there you understand how each day, B'Pokol Yom, he says, Mispashetes, Bechinas Chesadim Achas. So some aspect of the Chad, we were talking about the Chesadim of the Chesadim of the the Chasadim of the Chasadim. We talk about the Gevuras of the Chasadim, or the Tiferes of the Chasadim, etc. So one of them. So 1 week you're going to have, for example, all the Chasadim, all the Chesed side come into the Chasadim. So he says the same thing about So what's happened here is that the Mochin came in. We said a switch in the Mochin to right line, left line, and middle line. And now you have them lined up to go into Zair Anpin. And where do they go? Well, we're focusing particularly on the middle line, because the middle line is where Das is located, and inside of the Das, which is bringing in, which we have two, we have the Chasadim of Das, the Gevuras of Das. So let's just talk about the Chasadim, he said, for example, because it's the same thing the other way. Okay, so you have 49 going into 49, and the first thing that goes in is the seven spheros of Chesed, the Chesed of the Chasadim. So he says, now this really threw me a long time to explain. It's probably fairly simple, but I just am so stuck on my ideas I can't quite get it clear. He said, "V'hine b'shar kavon sham hevi shnei derachim." So what was the matter with that? That really explained everything. He says you have 7 sevens going in, and you have 7 sevens receiving it. That's pretty much gets you to 49, and one for each day. So now he says, well, there's a lot of different ways to talk about this. So who say to his pashtus of chasadim v'gevuros of his sphere zun? So that's how everything the chasadim and the gevuros go into zun. Now I wanted to add that, it's still the same thing. In the inside of Das, there's Chasadim the Das and Gevuras the Das, so you know that the Gevuras are ultimately going to go to the Nukva, so he says the Pasha Chasadim Gevuras b'Sfir Zun. Amnam b'Sidurim nekdach b'Seder Shona, but there's different orders if you look at the Seder. V'yesh b'Zecha Kama Derachan b'Farshim. So there's a lot of different drachim in the farsha. V'anim nekdach b'Yorein the Farish Gederek Shdarach Abba Maral Liyahu Misha. Now, why first of all, I thought that was the answer up above. So he said, no, we want to go over here. We look at we want to try to understand what the language of Rebbe Elazar, Rebbe Eliyahu Mishan. So we'll use him. He says this is the simplest way. So he shows us the picture of the Sefirat of Chesed. So this is where they're going to go to. They're going to go into Chesed. We'll look at the picture here. Let me see what I'm doing. My goodness gracious. Talking, and I'm not watching what I'm doing here. He says that this is the Sefirat of Chesed, and this is what the Sefirat of Chesed looked like. It looks like 3 different joints. And somehow these are going to go into the 3 different joints. And I'm a little confused about it because we got to 49 and we're very happy about 7 sevens and all that stuff. I think I understood it. Now he comes over and he said, but let's look at it like this instead. Let's look at it like Eliyahu Mishan says. He says that each sphere is divided into 3 lines. But not only that, but it has 3 joints plus a malchus. So the language of it is, and the language is a little better. He said, "V'tochan devarov kul dekol achan machasfiros kolula b'tlas pirkin." Every one of the spheros. Now we just said that the spheros themselves are basically a chagad nehim. There are 7 of them because that's Zair Anpin is a chagad nehim. He said machasfiros kolula b'tlas pirkin. So then you actually look at the sphera. And you see there's actually 3 different joints there, plus a malchus. Perek Elyon is called the Chabad, and Perek Emsoy is called the Chagad, and Perek Tachton is called the Nai. But Tachtechem you have Onas Malchus. Now that's 4 different sets in Shalesphira. So he said, called Perek Matlas Pirkim, every one of the Perek has within it these 3 lines. 3 lines which are the line of Chachan, Baga, and it's actually Datim. He doesn't show the Datim, the Malchus on this, drawing, but it's actually that. So this is what the Sefira actually looks like. Now, he said previously it divided into 49 parts, which was not that hard for me to understand. But now over here he says, let's look at it the way that Rabbi Eliyahu Meshan says that we should look at it. He says that now that in each part of the Sefira, every Sefira is actually composed of 3 different sections, four counting Malchus, and that each one of those Sephiros has 3 lines in it. So he says, like this, he says, so this we understand. It's the same thing also of the Gevuras, but they're going to wind up in the Nukva. So that's what's coming in. That's the Chasadim. There are 7 of them, and they're coming in. They're only coming from let me see, get these words, Shechasadim Bispashtim rock into the middle parak of the Sefiras of Zair Anpin. The top parak is not being, that is the Chabad, is not being affected during Sefira. The parak Tachton, also the Nai. So you have the Chabad and the Nai are going to be the receivers of this. Shall call Sefira Me'elach Hashevis Sefiras Chagat Nehim. So from the 7 Sefiros, which are said to Chagat Nehim, they're all going to go into lines, and now we're going to describe the lines. How the lines go. V'seidach is pashtas chasadim hu shebekol yom he mispashtim bekav echad. So every day they're going to be in one line. Shel achad mechaprakim ba'ofen de lachalan, and he's going to explain it here real quickly. He says, okay, that's it, and we'll get to that next time. We spending a lot of time trying to understand this because the language is not exactly what I would like it to be, because it's hard for me. This is Baruch Fleischman, the Tikkun Elevator Kula.